Hiya folks, JD here, and today we've got this. This is the JD-20s Pro. Now, I got in touch with Banggood and I asked them, because I've owned the JD-20 and I've owned the JD-20s, I said to them, is this the Pro version? And they said, yes it is. One way to tell, and the only way to tell, is that this is the 1080p 5 megapixel version. So let's open this up and have a little look on the inside. So the JD-20 I have always liked. It has been quite a good copter. I've thoroughly enjoyed flying all the different ones, but they have pretty much kept the same style and tried to evolve it slightly. So let's see exactly what it is they've done new to this particular copter. So let's move everything out of the way, and here is the copter. So we're still going off that very much liked and very same body style that they've had for the JD-20 and the JD-20s. Now there have been quite a lot of style differences for the 20s, like this white rim around the outside here, that's one that stands out. And also the colour of the plastic here is slightly changed. Also it has drone written on it. But pretty much the motor housings, the LED casings on the outside of the motor housings, the general shape, as well as the landing sprigs on the bottom have remained exactly the same. Now, with this particular version, you have a 1080p 5 megapixel camera at the front, which is not motorized, so you do have to angle it before you fly. You have your two LEDs at the front. Working our way towards the back, you have your on and off button. Click and hold, and she turns herself on. Blue LEDs to the front, green to the back, as well as you have this nice little red block at the back here, just to let you know exactly what's going on with the quadcopter. And once you bind it, that does stay solid as well. Now, at the back, we have this. Now, this is another thing that they changed with the JD-20s, was the battery, to give it a lot more battery life. Now, this is a 3.7 volt, 1800 milliamp hour battery, and it will give you 16 to 18 minutes flight on a charge time of 120 to 150 minutes. And you know what? That really does feel quite weighty. It is quite a large battery. Now, you charge it using the micro USB port in the side right there. I like that. I like these quadcopters that give you a long battery life. It really, really does improve the flight, I think. Now, if we flip it over, we have our 4 landing sprigs, 2 at the front, 2 at the back. Now, there's no rubber on them this time. They are just plastic. So, and obviously one thing you are going to see, when we did have the rubber on them, if you do land on concrete, the rubber rips. So maybe they've changed that just for these plastic bits. You've also got a micro SD card writer in the back here. Make sure you put your SD card inside there, your micro SD, before you take it out to fly, just to ensure you get some proper raw footage recorded at 1080p at 5 megapixel, so you can actually see exactly how good that is. And then likewise we just have here our little camera module, as well as some cooling for the battery at the back here. I like that. Just a couple of little slits, just allow the battery to breathe. The electronics are sat in the top here, and there's not any way the electronics can breathe, but hopefully without the battery heat in the back there, I'm hoping that it's going to stay nice and cool. Now, a couple of other things about this. You have got an RC distance of 100 meters. Now, that's not too bad. That gives you quite a nice little distance between you and the quadcopter to enjoy the flight, as well as to take her out a bit, bring her around and bring her back, so you can actually see and get some quite nice footage with that as well. Now, we have got the same propellers as we've had in the same particular mounting configuration that we've had on the JD-20 and the JD-20s, and that stayed exactly the same. I mean, why would you want to change that? But there is one thing that I did pick a hole in the JD-20s, and this is no different, and I'm shocked. And that was that the JD-20s did not have optical flow. And I said in the flight, if you remember, that the one thing that would have made the JD-20s a runaway winner in my eyes is if it had optical flow. Now, once again, we have the JD-20s Pro in front of us, and as you can see, there's no optical flow camera anywhere. That does shock me. I mean, you're paying £50 for this, and I would like to have seen a little optical flow camera. I mean, it doesn't take a lot to have that. You've already got the imaging processing power inside this particular camera module. Why not add a second camera to it, just to make your hovering 100% accurate. You've got the battery power, take a couple of seconds or a couple of minutes off that flight time, add the optical flow. I would not have minded that at all. That's one thing that does stand out that they've missed on this particular version. Other than that, with that aside, it does look quite nice. It has got a nice feel to it. It feels sturdy. It's got that really nice JD-20S sturdiness to it. Up to flight, honestly, I think it's going to be the same as the JD-20 and JD-20S. But we have to see. What I am mostly intrigued at is to see how well that lens actually works inside that camera, and what the quality of the raw footage back to the SD card is actually going to be like. Right, so that's the quadcopter. Folds quite nice. Now, what is your weight? So your flying weight, including the battery, of this particular quadcopter is 176 grams. So you're under that 250 gram weight restriction that's going to be coming in November this year, and it is already in a couple of countries around the world as well. Okay, so that is the quadcopter. Let's put that to one side. Now, we do have a bag here. One accessory bag is full of the propeller guards. I don't use those, so we'll put those to one side. And then we have, in this other accessory bag, we have a screwdriver, 2 spare propellers, and a micro USB cable there for charging the battery. Oh, and look, you do get 4 little rubber bungs to fit on the bottom of here. That's quite cool. I'm not going to bother fitting mine because the rubber ones often fall off, or they end up in the bottom of my bag because I fly over grass anyway and land onto a landing pad. So I'm not going to put them on. But it is good to note that you do get 4 inside there. So that's not bad. Nice little accessory pack. And then likewise we come on to the transmitter. Now, the transmitter is the same as the other transmitter we've seen for the JD-20 and the JD-20S. And once again we have these absolutely useless fake antennas. There's no need to them, so they're just going to come straight off because, well, they're pointless. So, because the antennas are built into here. If you're ever considering whether or not these antennas are real or not, if you actually see the antenna cable run up the inside of this, then it is actually an antenna, and it is amplified. If you never do, then they're fake. So let's have a quick little look at this transmitter. The transmitter has stayed the same on the JD-20 and the JD-20S. As I've said, it's very basic, but it just works. That is why you don't have to reinvent the wheel in this particular case. It just works. I mean, you've got trim left and right. You've got your auto takeoff and landing. You've got return to home and headless mode. Now, the return to home, as this isn't a GPS copter, is just going to mean if your front orientation is facing forward, your return to home is just going to come directly back to you. So if you're facing the front orientation's to the side, it's going to go back the other side. So be very careful with that. Luckily enough, if you push it, you can then push it again to deactivate it. Now, you have got a couple of shoulder buttons up here, shoulder buttons for taking photos as well as your video, and you do have 2 little buttons here that you can click on the analog sticks there just so that you can perform 3D flips off that. Now, you do have a slide at the front here which turns on your transmitter, single 1 up and 1 down to bind as usual, and then what you also have to do is to just calibrate the gyros, which should be down and in together, but we'll go through that again on the flight test. But all in all, that's pretty useful. And likewise, because if you want to have your FPV downlink directly connected to your camera, pop your phone in there, job done. Now, once again, doesn't feel very expensive, is quite cheap. That doesn't really bother me. It's just going to do the job, and I'm quite happy with that. In the back here, you have your battery bay. Now, your battery bay, there should be 4 AA batteries, I believe. Let me just unscrew this. Excuse the hands, folks. And then once we take this off, should be 3 AA's in the back there. Yeah, there we are. 3 AA's in the back. This transmitter does not allow USB charging of any sort, so you have got to ensure the batteries you're using here are fully charged or shop bought. That's okay. Oh, and if you're wondering what the rattle on this is, it's just one of these little brackets on the inside that I pulled off from the antenna. It's just rattling around inside there. Nothing to worry about. It should be perfectly fine. So there we go. That is our analog stick. It feels quite nice. has quite a nice movement to it. And what I like about these as well, these transmitters, is that you have got nice increment movement. So if you did want to take off and to move the quadcopter around really slowly, you have that ability with these particular transmitters. Quite nice, very basic, does the job. You don't need anything else in my eyes. So that's the transmitter. And then lastly, you get a load of manuals. So these manuals, this first one pulls out, you have your QR codes in order for you to get your app downloaded from Google Play or iOS, as well as it goes into your app in a little bit of detail and how to calibrate the gyros there as well. And then we have another manual, which is actually the manual for the quadcopter, which goes into a different part of the quad, as well as how to connect your phone to your transmitter, which is what we've just been through, as well as your speed modes, as well as all the different features inside there as well. And especially, you get this little grid at the back here for troubleshooting, if you're having any difficulty with taking off or flying. So that's it. So all in all, you get the manuals, you get your transmitter, you get your quadcopter, your JD-20 Pro, and you get both of your bags there. So all in all, that looks quite nice. Now I am intrigued to see how this flies. I'm hoping it's going to be as good as the JD-20. Only one way to find out though, folks, and that is to take it up in the next few days. So please join me then. I've been JD, you've been fantastic as always. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Hello and welcome to all the new subscribers. I hope you're enjoying the channel. So until next time, my friends, happy flying.